to it.
Yes.
First of all, I'm honored to be here and to be speaking. I'm honored to be just breathing. So, thank God.
Yeah.
So, like she was saying, testimonies are very powerful. Testimonies change people. They encourage people. And that's what I have mostly is testimonies. But last week I was talking about, this week I was going to preach on prayer, or teach on prayer, but really probably not going to get to that this week. Probably had to go on next week with the prayer because you have to lay a foundation for what you're teaching on. And Larry here, he condemns me from doing the research on everything. And I've done research on this right here because I have been in the Bible deep in this subject right here on words. And that's what I'm going to talk about. It's going to lay a foundation for prayer. And like Sister Ann said, there's an order of things that we have to do. To operate in kingdom principles, there's a certain order of things that got to be done. It's just like you can't get in your car and drive somewhere without any gas in it. There's got to be a certain order of things to go. And you can't do simple things like take out the trash without having certain things you have to do to follow instructions, which I'm teaching my kids to do stuff by a list. And it builds character and it shows you have to do one thing. You can't go buy a cell phone and then it's going to come with a charger cord, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have all those things in line or it's not going to work, right? So anyway, the thing that I wanted to say first is that praise God for me being here. And, one thing's for certain and two things for sure. It's an old saying I used to have, one thing's for certain and two things for sure. One thing for certain is God loves me. Two things for certain is we don't have to fight yesterday's battles today. And I won't have to fight today's battles tomorrow. So I'm not glorifying, I will never glorify the enemy, but thank God I don't have to fight yesterday's battles today. And that's what we have to instill in spirit. I got a hold of that at that men's meeting the other day, and I'll tell you what, I got a hold of that. I've been all over Atlanta with that. Everybody I talk to, I'm like, and even my son, we get done working for the day, because my son works with me, we'll do a high five, because we don't have to fight the battles. I'm doing plumbing work, so I have a hard time. Sometimes it's like we're high-fiving and we don't have to fight the battles that we fought today, tomorrow.
Amen.
I'm like, I don't have to fight that. But anyway, I want to talk about our words. Our words are power. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, your words are still power. And I'm going to show you some verses right now that are talking about our words, and this is laying a foundation for prayer, the power of prayer too. So, first verse that I'm going to talk about is the power. There's Proverbs 18:21, and everybody knows this one, especially people that are. I'm a word teacher, preacher, whatever you want to call it. I preach on the word because the word, you're going to live and die by your word. It says it right here. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Yes. So if you love your tongue and what it says, you're going to eat the fruit of it.
Yes.
And I could probably speak for a couple hours just on this verse, but I'm not going to. But I went deep into the Bible on these words, and there's hundreds and hundreds of verses on the power of your words. And I don't even have this verse wrote down, but the book of James says if we could tame our tongue, we could do a lot. We could tame our bank accounts, our house, everything. We could tame a lot of stuff that needs to be tamed. It's probably in this order. So I have a lot of things that are going on that I'm taming right now, but I'm taming them with my words. I'm declaring the decree with my words that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to be fine. And I'm telling you, I would not be here right now if it wasn't for my wife, Ann, and Marilyn's words, the power of prayer. I've been dead. And I'm not going to go into any detail, but basically that's a long story short. So the other verse, and I found this one while I was in the Word looking for the scriptures on words. Proverbs 6:2 says, "You have been trapped by what you have said," and this is like the New International Version is what I print. I like the King James Version too, but it's better to understand, better to teach out of this version right here because it's more like King James. We were talking about that earlier. I was looking at, matter of fact, to change subject, I was looking at that verse we were talking about last week, right? I was telling my wife that verse in Psalm 91, and it looks like gibberish in the original Hebrew, where they wrote it translate from Hebrew into English. It looks just like gibberish, and then King James said there and said, "He that dwelleth in the shadow or the shelter of the Almighty will rest in the in the shadow of the Most High. But in the original Hebrew translation, it just looks like, I mean, it makes sense, but it looks like just a bunch of words with nothing in between them. You know what I mean? So anyway, so the Hebrew language you taught on that's not the best language to translate.
Yeah, they write all the letters together.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, so Proverbs 6:2 says you've been trapped by what you said, and snared by the words of your mouth. These teach us right here the words of wisdom of Solomon that was given to him by God, that we are trapped by our own words. We can, and you can go further. Matthew said, Jesus is talking here. He said, "For by your words," it's Matthew 12. If you're looking for verse, if you're verse, it's Matthew 12:37. For your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. You know, these are teachings that are they're really profound, because you just don't say. You have to be careful what you say before you say it, because your words will come to pass. And you have to do a lot of things before you sit there and just speak stuff out there, because whatever you speak is going to come to pass. And Jesus taught on this, and I went deep off in, like Larry said, I went deep off into the Bible about this. And when Noah after the flood, and Noah got back on dry ground again, God said there's going to be three things. There will always be three things, three laws. He will never change: night and day, summer, winter, seed time and harvest. What Jesus taught on, your words are like seeds. So you're going to plant, you're going to harvest whatever you plant. So you plant bad words, you're going to harvest good words, you're going to harvest those too. And then you have the ability with our words, if you planted bad words, you got the ability, you got the power. And that song, that song was on my spirit too, that Chainbreaker song. I played that song in my big room for days on end one time. I'm telling you, that is like a powerful song, because he'll break every chain. It's already done, it's past tense, amen? So anyway, by your words you're condemned, or by your words you're set free. So if we say bad words, we plant bad words, we're able to rebuke those words and say, hey, I rebuke those words I said, and those words of disrespect or hate against, or unforgiveness against somebody, and I rebuke those words, and I change them. You know what I mean? You can change your word, because every word will never fall to the ground. It's in Isaiah. I mean, there's hundreds of verses on these words. And then what happens is when our faith gets stronger and stronger, and we're learning how to operate in kingdom principles, there's some verses in the Bible that will tell you about decreeing and declaring some things. So in Job it says, if you decree something, it shall stand, it will stand. It don't say it may stand or it might stand, it says it will. It will stand. There's nothing changing that. It's going to stand, good or bad. And it says light will shine on your way. If you decree something, and that's if your faith is unwavering. Because a lot of it is me, especially I used to say stuff that I didn't really believe was going to come to pass, such as my arm's killing me. You know what I mean? You don't really believe that's going to happen, but that's how the devil manipulates our minds to say these things. Or I'm scared to death of a spider. You don't want to say that stuff, because what happens is when you want to say something that you want to believe in, it ain't going to come to pass because you really don't believe it. That's how the devil manipulates our mind. So we have to retrain our minds on how we think about the words we speak. You know, or this is a good one. This is my favorite right here. I can't afford something.
Oh.
Who said you can't afford it? Did God say that? No, the devil put that in your mind, because it's up to God whether you can afford something or not.
Amen.
Because in all actuality, God created all the gold, all the diamonds, all the rubies before we were in creation.
Yes.
Amen?
Amen.
So they were already there before he provided the provision before we were even created in the earth.
Yes.
So it ain't yours anyway. So you can't say I can't afford something. Amen. I can't afford something because it's God's money. It's gold. It's his car. It's his house, right?
Yes.
It's his clothes we're wearing. We're just borrowing everything, right?
That's right.
So anyway, and like I said, I'm just laying the foundation for. We'll probably get to prayer next week, because that's a power. I have such a powerful testimony on prayer. It's a miracle. God has worked miracles through my life. I'm telling you, I just give all praise to God, and I'm so excited about being able to share it with everybody. And then the last verse that I'm going to talk about is, and there's a man that one of my mentors, that he's dead now, you know him, Kenneth Hagin. He preached on this verse right here 52 years. He went to the grave with this one. He raised himself out of his invalid bed, his deathbed, with this verse, and he died preaching this verse right here. But a lot of people won't carry on with this verse. This verse right here teaches you how to operate kingdom principles with your words. And it teaches it, and like Ann said, there's a certain order of things that we have to do, because if you don't go by the certain order of things, it ain't gonna happen. You know, one of the things is you can't be speaking against something like I was with somebody one day said, if Jesus came into church today and said, you're gonna have whatever you say, we'd be burying the dead for years, because they'd be saying, I'm scared to death, I'm gonna, my arm's killing me, my back's killing me, my butt's killing me, everything. What ain't killing you? You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm gonna read this verse. And a lot of people, this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. I know you like it too. Everybody likes this verse. It's Mark 11:20. It starts at 11:22 and goes on to verse 25. And Jesus is telling the disciples, he had just spoke. I just laid the foundation. He had just spoken to a fig tree. It was out of season. And the disciples he spoke death on the fig tree, but the disciples were amazed, because he said, we walked by the fig tree a couple of days ago, then we came back and it's dead, you spoke. And he's telling the disciples, he's teaching his disciples that, hey, have faith in God, but he's telling them have the God kind of faith, not have faith in God, have the faith that God has,
Right.
which is a certain level. And a lot of people use that mustard seed thing, is you have to have small mustard. The reason why he used the mustard seed, it wasn't the size of the mustard seed. He used the mustard seed. Nobody would have knew this. Nobody. That's how powerful God is. Nobody would have knew it. The mustard seed is the only seed that you can't change the molecular structure. You know how they're changing everything with GMOs and all that? The mustard seed is the only seed that you cannot change the molecular structure of. You cannot make that seed do anything else but grow a mustard.
Thank you, Lord.
Amen. And then another reason why, it wasn't the size of the seed either. It was what the seed produces. That seed produces a big, and it's like, wow, it's like gigantic. So that's a couple of reasons why they teach on that, the mustard seed. But he goes on and says, he says, truly I tell you, if anyone says this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, it will be yours. So he said in the King James Version, he puts the word said, saith, or say in this verse 5 times.
Yeah.
So he in the King James, not this verse, but the King James version, because I dissected both of them. Like you said, I went deep in this verse, because I heard this guy preach on hundreds of sermons on this same verse. So what he's talking about is, if you say this mountain, he's not talking about a mountain, but you can move mountains with your words, it don't matter. But he's talking about a problem area in your life, or a issue you have, or addiction you have, or a problem you have, anything you have in your life, you can say to it, and then you have to believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
After that, then you got to believe it, and then it says, when you believe that it will be saved, it will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it already. And this is one of the things I want to teach on prayer too. When you're praying for something, if you're praying for yourself to get healed, you're believing for something to happen, you don't have to pray for it twice, because God heard your prayer the first time. So if you pray for the same thing over and over again, now there are prayers that you can pray over and over again, but if you ask God to give you something, you got to believe it's done. Because if you pray for it again, that means you're in unbelief. That's a sin.
That's it.
Amen?
That's it.
Yeah. So and that's what he's trying to teach here. But there's and I'm going to do some research later. There's 3 types of prayers. This is one type of prayer where you pray for something, you ask for something, you don't have to ask for it again, because he's already given it to you. Now, there might be something that holds up your prayer, and I'm going to get in that right here. What will hold up your prayer is, like you said, there's got to be an order of things, and this is what this is what hit me when Kenneth Hagin was teaching on it. He said people don't preach on this last verse, because it says in verse 25, it says and, which is where and connects that verse 24 and this verse together. It says, and when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anybody, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven can forgive you. So a lot of times, and I've ran into, and this is just testimony to me, I've ran into stuff that's blocking your blessings from coming. It's unforgiveness. You're walking in unforgiveness. You haven't let something go. It could be something that happened 20 years ago. It could be something that happened 10 minutes ago. Amen. I mean, and I'll be the first one to tell you, sometimes I have a hard time letting stuff go, especially when somebody comes against my family or my finances or my wife or tries to get over on me. And I tell people all the time, you know, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I have mercy and forgiveness, but I'm not going to let you walk over me. I got something to say about that. If it's got something to do with something God gave me or my family, it ain't going to happen. And I'll accept the wrath of God if that's what it is, but I'm doing what God wants me to do. And there's another verse that I got a hold of in the Bible. It's my the Proverbs says to do what is right and just is better than sacrifice. We were talking about it last time, right? So if you do what is right and just, that's better than sacrifice. But that's within, and I was teaching my son today too, and I was teaching him on this, like, here, you can have anything you want, you just got to speak it. But it's got to be within reason. You can't ask for somebody else's wife or somebody else's car or somebody else's house. You got to be within the biblical principles of this, and this is where you was talking about orders got to be taking place. And then not only that, is another thing that don't talk about it here, but it's like for women, who's had, I mean, you had kids, right? What'd you do before you had a kid? You got a baby bed, you got baby clothes, you were prepared to have that baby. So when you ask God for something, you're supposed to prepare to receive that, even though you ain't seen it yet. That's hope, and things we have not seen yet. So you have to prepare for that blessing. And I'm teaching on this because my wife and I have walked in it. You know, we walked in the good part of it, and I've walked in the bad part of it. You know, so I've walked on both sides of that fence. So I know that if you do this and this and this is going to come back. If you don't do it, then it ain't going to happen. You know, and we were talking about last week too. I don't know if a lot of people are here, but we were talking about these verses in the Bible. You can switch every one of them around. It's like a car. You look at a car, your car right there. If you look at the front end, the back end looks different than the front end, right? So if you switch it around, it's, you know, it's right here. For your words you're acquitted, but by your words you're condemned. It's like every verse in the Bible, you can put it in reverse. You know, and the best ones to put in reverse is the ones in the Old Testament. And God does it for us, especially in Deuteronomy, where it's talking about you be blessed coming, you be blessed going, you be blessed here, your fruits will be blessed, your fruit of the room will be blessed, your house be blessed, your job be blessed, everything be blessed. But if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, then everything else is going to be cursed. Everything's laying curses down. So it's like you have to believe how to operate in these principles right here, and then you have to, if you want something out of life, or you're having a hard time with something, you can get in prayer about it. You don't even have to make your own prayers up. You can get some prayers in the Bible. Paul wrote some of the most beautiful prayers, most powerful prayers that have brought Jesus to be. He had 5 encounters with Jesus. He prayed the prayer for a year, 2 years in his church. His wife thought he was going crazy. He was in his church all day and all night praying the same prayer, and that's how he had encounters with Jesus. Kenneth Hagin. I've read his book. So yeah, and it was like, and then he was talking about other prayers. He would pray these prayers over people or his family and his stuff, and he's seen immediate changes in their lives. So when I'm hearing this, and that's why I'm passing on to you, I'm hearing this from him. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that too. So that's what I did, and I prayed these prayers over my family, and my time's up. So we're gonna have to continue next week, and I get more, because I don't want to take up everybody's time. So we'll get it, like I said. So I laid the foundation. So everybody got to be here next week, so we can hear about the prayer, my testimony, these prayers, because it's life changing to me. It's brought me so much joy. Amen.